Yes, welcome everybody. Cannabis News with Joe Klare, November 8th, 2018. As we continue our aftermath coverage of election night, at least in the world of cannabis. Of course, show is brought to you as always by the Marijuana Times. Check out marijuanatimes.org. Find the video tab at marijuanatimes.org and you will find the show. Also, a bunch of great articles, social media links, all of that stuff. Go check it out today. We're talking about New York City and cannabis networking. We're also talking about some decriminalization measures that passed in Ohio on election night. We're also talking about marijuana use during pregnancy. Very controversial. All that coming up. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Grow safe and poison-free. Don't use harmful chemicals. Don't use banned pesticides in the state that you're growing in. Make sure you use Natureside, nature-side.com, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. Go check them out. First story by Andrew Ward over at marijuanatimes.org. New York City's cannabis networking continues to grow like the industry. As you know, and we've covered on this show, it's been quite a change from New York, going from a state where there was a limited medical marijuana program to a much more progressive and full-throated, I guess you could say, efforts by Governor Cuomo and others to get the medical marijuana program expanded and look into recreational cannabis legalization. As I've said before, a lot of that due to, of course, of the governor, the primary race of Cynthia Nixon, a.k.a. Miranda, from Sex and the City. She was very pro-marijuana legalization, and that seemed to push Governor Cuomo from a point where he was like, I really don't like that idea, to, hey, let's look really, really close at that idea. Anyway, this story, which is linked in the description of this video, talks about Revel, which is a annual showcase of cannabis innovation in Manhattan. With inspiration as a focus, the event touts some major industry names and offers attendees a chance to network and engage with some of the market's leading minds. Very interesting stuff. Obviously, Manhattan, not known as a hotbed of marijuana legalization. There are some dispensaries there, but when you have a little island with 8 million people, that's a lot of cannabis networking that can happen in a small space without a lot of people traveling a long way. Just another example of the growth of the cannabis industry and the mainstreaming of the cannabis industry when big cities are getting into the act, and when the big cities not like Denver or even Los Angeles, but something like New York City where, like I said, is not known. When you think of New York City, you don't think, hey, marijuana. You may think of a lot of things. You may think marijuana eventually down the list, but it's not well known as a marijuana mecca. So good for them. This next story is from Cincinnati.com. Norwood, among other cities in Ohio, voted to decriminalize marijuana. Another one of those cities was Dayton. Norwood voters remove fines and jail penalties for marijuana possession of less than 200 grams or slightly less than half a pound. Norwood is a story I've talked about. It's a city I've talked about on this show, and also wrote a story about it a few weeks ago about their efforts to decriminalize. 72% of the vote. Norwood passed a decriminalization measure. Norwood's about 20,000 people. It joins more than 50 localities in a dozen states that have ended the prosecution or enacted municipal laws or resolutions decriminalizing minor violations for cannabis possession. Very long-winded way of saying that a lot of places decriminalize cannabis. So that's one of those writers that seems like, hey, I know a lot of big words. Let's throw them all into the article and really show off the learning that they have acquired. In Dayton, voters, at least when this was written, had 62% or 62 of the 95 precincts reporting. The vote was 65%, a little over 65% in favor of Dayton, the fourth largest city in Ohio. Of course, marijuana is decriminalized in Ohio. There's a medical marijuana program in Ohio. No industrial hemp legalization in Ohio, which is odd. Recreational is a topic I've talked about in Ohio quite a few times. And the debacle that was issue 3 and the debacle that is the aftermath of issue 3, what's been going on in Ohio since 2015 when issue 3 went down to defeat. So congratulations to Ohio, several cities in Ohio, including Dayton and Norwood, voting to decriminalize. Of course, police in Norwood are saying, we don't care. We're going to follow state law, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that should be interesting. An interesting story to follow as time goes on. This last story from usatoday.com. Sharp uptick in pregnant women using marijuana during a key time in babies' development. Prenatal use of marijuana is growing between 2002 and 2016. Marijuana use of pregnant women rose from 2.85% to almost 5%, so almost a doubling of that number. Unlike alcohol and cigarette use, prenatal cannabis use has not decreased, especially during the first trimester of pregnancy, which is a key phase of the neural development of a fetus. According to the author of a letter published this week in JAMA Pediatrics, the Journal of the American Medical Association. I believe that's what JAMA stands for. I think that's right. Oh, well, maybe it's not. Either case. JAMA Pediatrics. You can see this, the letter for yourself. It's all linked. The article is linked in the description of this video. The letter's authors did not address why there was an uptick in prenatal use, but more states have relaxed laws on recreational marijuana and more are considering it. In a separate study published in JAMA, pregnant women self-reported using marijuana to treat severe nausea and vomiting. And they go on to say, obviously cigarette use, alcohol use among pregnant women is going down. That's great. There are studies that say that marijuana use is okay for pregnant women. There's studies that say the opposite. There's, if you're one of those people that believes there needs to be more research into that area, I would wholeheartedly agree. But what I would say is that, and I know this for a fact, at least in some parts of the United States, doctors have no problems prescribing opioids to pregnant women far into their third trimester. Now, I understand the first trimester is very development. Yes, very much development. But the third trimester, we're talking about almost a fully formed fetus and almost the baby that's going to be born. But doctors don't have a problem with Percocets and other opioids. Mothers taking those. But marijuana, doctors warn, don't use marijuana. But here, you want a prescription for Percocet? Well, by all means, your baby needs some good old-fashioned opioids in utero. Get them used to it. Get them used to those opioids. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has warned expectant mothers that THC, the active chemical in cannabis, can harm a baby's development. But again, apparently opioids, they don't have that same problem. Incredible stuff. Now, I'm not saying if you're a pregnant woman, you should or you shouldn't. That's your decision. Look into the research that's available. Hopefully there's more research forthcoming that shows exactly how cannabis affects a fetus in good or bad ways, why that is, and what can be done about it. That's the point of research. But they come out and say, alcohol is bad, cigarettes bad, that's been proven. Cannabis is also bad, that really hasn't been proven. And opioids are okay, which certainly has not been proven. And then we are where we are. Expectant mothers, make your own decisions. But I would avoid cigarettes and alcohol, and I would avoid opioids as well. But again, it's your decision. That's Cannabis News. Thanks everybody for checking us out and listening and watching the show. Make sure you follow the Marijuana Times on all our social media. You search the Marijuana Times on YouTube and Vimeo and Apple Podcasts if you want the audio-only version of the show. Keep spreading the word about cannabis with the show. Like, share, comment on the videos, and check us out on marijuanatimes.org. Thank you to NatureSide, nature-side.com, and the organic, all-natural pesticides. Thank you all for watching and listening to today's episode and all episodes. And we'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.